Welcome back to Road to Pro Producer, a series where I document my journey making and releasing music for my artist project. The current goal is to reach 100,000 plays on an independent release. Last episode, I recorded the vocals and put some finishing touches on the song. Today, I'm going to make the cover art, and I'm going to do it using only free software. I wanted something that was futuristic, but also retro, something that matched the sound that I was going for in the song. I was thinking make it similar to the artwork I've done in the past, but a bit different because the music's going to be different this time. When I was actually working on the instrumental and lyrics, I needed to rest my ears one day. I wanted to prep this project, and oops. I made it. It all happened really quick. It was 3.5 hours from looking for inspiration to this, the finished product. I was planning on recording this so you could like see how I made it, but then some time passed and I started to change my mind. I wasn't sure if this is what I really wanted. I spent so much time reworking the song until it was something I really liked, and I didn't want to skimp out on the artwork like that. It's good artwork, but it doesn't feel like it's representative of the sound, and it didn't push me to the next level to make it. So I set out to rework the artwork. I'm sensing a theme here. The title I settled on was Rome. I was thinking, what is going to visually represent this? And I went with a Roman arch. I also found some inspiration when I was looking for this. So I was thinking about combining this with the concept of like an archway that leads from darkness to light on the other side. It's not something you can really make in Photoshop. This is a bit of a bigger task. So I started learning how to 3D model. I'm using the software called Blender, which is free. I downloaded this like 6 years ago, but I never really watched tutorials on it. I never really learned how to use it that well. So this was basically my first time actually making something in Blender. Made sure not to make the same mistake this time. I spent an entire day, 7-8 hours watching tutorials, and it turns out that's all you really need. By the end of the day, I was able to recreate the scene from the reference art that I wanted to recreate. It looks simple, but a lot of work goes into getting it right. In order to make this archway, you have to make like a negative shape. It's called a Boolean. And you have to figure out how to make an arch, like around those corners, which was not easy. It was not easy to learn that as a beginner. And then also you have to create the different textures. How does the light reflect off of this? And then you also have to understand light. So there's 3 light sources in this. The first is this one, illuminating plane that is vertical. And then the second, it's kind of hard to see. It's not directly black right here. I had like an area light that was pointing back at the archway. And then the final one, to get these harsh lines of the shadow, I had to have like a direct light right about here, just facing outward. That way you can get these shadows. It looks simple, but this took a long time to make. I forgot how fun and rewarding it is to learn a new skill, especially like so quickly. I wanted to show it to everyone, right? It's just like you want to show your first beat to everyone when you start making music. So now it's time to do the real deal, combine the archway with this kind of illuminating arch idea. It took 3 days to make the arch. It was very hard as a beginner. It took several hours to just troubleshoot. And it didn't help that the tutorial I followed was for like advanced Blender users. It left out some steps and like freehand drew stuff, which meant I just couldn't copy their tutorial. While it was frustrating in the moment, it made me more satisfied with the result because it's a one-of-one design. Like, I made this. I want to show a couple of the weird things that I did with the arch that isn't immediately obvious. This is what it looks like in Blender. One of the things I want to show is it's called a rosette. So I made this. I was starting by following like a little example of a rosette, and then it got really complicated. So I just started freehanding stuff. That's why it kind of looks like a cat or a camel here. I don't really know, but I felt like it looked cool. By far the hardest thing to do was the arch itself. Having detail on it, have this be curved but also recessed, and have these like be square. It was very difficult, very difficult. So to get the material looking the way it do, I had to do this garbage. Yuck. Thankfully there's like a ton of tutorials on how to do like a marble look. I wanted to do like marble here and have it like stick out on its own and have these colors be, you know, kind of different. That's how I made it in Blender. I think 4 days total, and then a lot of time just like spent trying to get a great render, make that look good. So this is the final result. It took about an hour to render, but I'm really happy with how it looks. I really like the marble texture and like the way the light hits it. Now we're going to be importing this to Photopia. It's a free online software, very similar to Photoshop. So the goal here is to make this render kind of match the style of the music. It currently looks like album art for classical music or for a eulogy. Okay, this is what it looks like, photopia.com. Going to do new project, and I'm thinking we'll go with the classic 3000 by 3000 pixels. Time for me to cook. I was thinking maybe add like a color gradient, see if I can make that look more retro futuristic that way. We could try sunset, or we could try like a blue to pink. It does not help that I'm colorblind. I like the idea of keeping the center more white and then have the color kind of be up top a little bit. Maybe change the blending mode to color. I'm going to move on to the next thing. This isn't printed, so I can just come back and change it. Okay, next thing I'm thinking to make this kind of look retro is make it look worse. I'm going to start off grouping this and turning it into a smart object. The benefit of that is you can just double click on it, make changes in here, save it, and then it'll update back here. Okay, let's do filter, pixelate, color halftone. It's gonna look real bad for a second. Okay, so now it's time to just be a bit creative. I could go overlay, I could go soft light, hard light. It all depends on the look I'm going for. So now we have the halftone effect just affecting like the middle colors. I think what I'm gonna do now is add some blur layers. We're just gonna add another layer on top, put blur Gaussian, a massive Gaussian blur, almost 200 pixels. And then I set the blending mode to lighten, huge glow around it. This is overkill, so I'm gonna turn this opacity down. All right, so I think this is it. I was actually debating whether or not to put text on here for it to say like Rome on the side or something. It's still up in the air. I like it as art itself, so it might be able to just stand alone on that. I also added in a monochrome noise layer, which is affecting the grays in the same way that the halftone is. You can kind of see it in the glow areas. So now we start getting into uncharted territory for myself. We have gotten 3 of the 4 elements done for making and releasing music. I was very comfortable producing music for the instrumental. I feel like my music producer skills kind of carried me through recording vocals, and then artwork. I've been doing this stuff for a long time, but now releasing the music and promoting it, we're getting into uncharted territory. That's right. I've never done this really successfully on my own, so we're gonna start getting into the more experimental. We're gonna be learning together how to actually do this thing. That means next video we're gonna be publishing it and looking at the initial promotion of the song. I am excited for it though. Don't know what's gonna happen, but we'll see. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.